Hello, welcome to Chapter 5, Completing the Triangle Toolkit, questions 111 to 117. Farmer Jill has a problem. She lives on a triangular plot of land and is surrounded by all three sides by a fence. Yesterday, one side of the fence was torn down by a storm. She wants to determine the length of the side that needs to be rebuilt so that she can purchase enough lumber. Since the weather is still too poor for her to go outside and measure the distance, she decides to use the lengths of two sides that are still standing and the angle between them. Part A, draw a diagram of this situation, label all the sides and angles that Farmer Jill has measurements for. So, Part A, we need two sides that are still standing. So we'll just draw a triangle here. We'll make this 224 feet. The shorter side 116 feet with an angle between them of 58 degrees. Not drawn to scale, but that's what we're looking at. The side that is missing is the one that was torn down by the storm. So on part B, find the length of the fence that needs to be replaced, which would be our unknown. What tool did you use? We're given a side, an included angle, and another side. So it looks like we're going to be using law of cosines. Side angle side allows us to use law of cosines on this one, and we'll just go ahead and set it up. X squared is equal to 116 squared plus 224 squared minus 2 times 116 times 224 times the cosine of the included angle of 58 degrees. So I'm going to take that whole right side and plug it into the calculator and see what we get. Alright, there is the answer, approximately 36,000. We'll then take the square root of both sides, and we get approximately, so x is approximately 100, and I get 189.9, so I'm going to go 190 feet for the side of the fence that needs to be replaced. And once again, make sure you answer the question that was asked. Question 112. Mr. Miller has informed you that two shapes are similar. What does this tell you about the angles in the shapes? If two shapes are similar, then we know that the corresponding angles have equal measure. And then for part B, what does this tell you about the lengths of the sides of the shape? We know that the ratio of the corresponding sides is in proportion. And that answers question 112. Question 113. Find the equation of the line that has a slope angle of 25 degrees and a y-intercept of 0, 4. Sketch the graph of this line. Assume the slope of the line is positive. So we know it goes through the y-intercept at 0, 4. And we know the slope angle has to be 25 degrees. So remember what that means is that when we draw our slope triangles wherever it's going to fall, alright, that this angle right here has to be 25 degrees. So what is the ratio for tangent of 25 degrees? Because remember, tangent of 25 is delta y over delta x. So if we can find tangent of 25 degrees, and we can do that by just plugging that into the calculator. And tangent of 25 is approximately 0.466. Then that allows us to use that as our ratio. Remember, that's over 1, so that could represent your delta y over delta x. And so therefore the equation of the line would be y equals, and once again it's approximately, but 0.466 times x plus your y-intercept, which would be plus 4. So there would be the equation of the line approximately with a slope angle of 25 degrees. Question 114. Two sides of a triangle have lengths 9 and 14 units. Describe what you know about the length of the third side. So 9 and 14. And just remember, when we're looking for that third side, if we try to open this length up as far as we possibly can, and then also try to close it as far as we possibly can. So if we open it up as far as possible, that would be 23. And if we close it, all we'd have left is 5. So therefore that the third side needs to be less than 23 units, but greater than 5 units. Question 115, how many terms are in the arithmetic sequence shown below? So remember, this is term 1, term 2, 3, 4, and so on. It is going down or adding -8 each time. All right, so if we know where it starts and its growth rate, then we can figure out how many terms this is going to get to -225. So what would be the equation? A of n is equal to -8 times n, and then we can use the term 0 by adding another 8 to get back to 23. That'd be term 0. And then now we know that a of n, whatever that term is -225, so we can just plug it into the equation and solve for n. Divide by -8, and n is equal to 31, so it's the 31st term.
Question 116. Mr. Chi has placed 3 red, 7 blue, 2 yellow beads in a hat. If a person selects a red bead, he or she wins $3. If that person selects a blue bead, he or she loses $1. If the person selects a yellow bead, he or she wins $10. What is the expected value for one draw? Is this game fair? So we have a total of 3, 7, and 2 would be 12 total. So to get a red, let's switch that. So to get a red would be, the probability for a red is 3 out of 12. The probability for a blue is 7 out of 12. And then the probability for a yellow would be 2 out of 12. And so if we're trying to find the expected value, and we see how much they win for each of these, so the red, you're going to win $3. For the blue, you're actually going to lose $1. And then for the yellow, you're going to win $10. So we can, find the product of each of these and then add them up and see what we get. And so multiplied them and then added them up, and I get a total of, looks like we got 22 over 12, which would equal approximately $1 and about 83 cents. So if you want to win some money, this would be good, but in terms of it being a fair game, the game is not fair because the expected value is not, it's not 0. So once again, we found the expected value, that's $1.83, but the game is not a fair game. Question 117. Tehachapi High School has 839 students and is increasing by 34 students per year. Meanwhile, Fresno High School has 1,644 students and is decreasing by 81 students per year. How many years will the two high schools have the same number of students? All right, so what are the things that we don't know? Let's set up our let statements. Let's let T equal the number of years. And then also we need to identify the total students. So we can let, we'll just say Y equal the number of students in the school. So on the first one, Tehachapi High School has 839 students, but they're increasing 34 students a year. So 34 students every year, plus the initial 839 students they already have. Then at Fresno High School, we have 1,644 students, but it's decreasing by 81 students each year. So negative 81 times T plus the initial 1,644. So in how many years will the two high schools have the same number of students? We can solve this by using the equal value method. We can set the two expressions 34T plus 839 is equal to negative 81T plus 1,644. And then we can solve this equation for how many years it'll take for the two populations to be the same. So I'm going to add 81t to both sides. That'll give me 115t plus 839 is equal to 1,644. Subtract 839. And that'll give us 115t is equal to 805, and then divide that by 115. And that'll give us an answer of t is equal to 7. So it looks like it's going to take 7 years for the two high schools to have the same number of students. Now, that's all it asks, so we can stop there. But if we wanted to know how many students, then we could plug that back in for t and figure out how many students would be in each high school at that time.